Welcome to In the Black, the podcast that shines a light on resilience, transformation, and the power of reinvention. I'm Araceli, and each week my co host Shannon and I sit down with incredible women who've faced some of life's hardest challenges, from personal setbacks to societal obstacles, and have emerged on the other side stronger, driven, and ready to make a difference.
On In the Black, we celebrate these stories of strength and success, diving deep into the journeys of women who turned pain into purpose, adversity into action, and now dedicate themselves to making the world a better place in their own way. They're here to inspire, share hard earned wisdom, and remind us all that no matter how dark things may seem, life is cyclical and dawn is coming. So, whether you're looking for inspiration, motivation, or just a reminder that change is always possible, this is the podcast for you. Welcome to In the Black. Today's guest is someone whose story is a true testament to perseverance and purpose. Meet Alex, a woman who turned a life-altering challenge into a mission to support and uplift others. In high school, Alex experienced a traumatic brain injury as the result of a car accident, setting her on a journey of recovery that required speech, physical, and mental therapy. While the road was difficult, she faced it with incredible determination and resilience, emerging stronger and more inspired to make a difference. Alex's own experiences sparked a deep passion for mental health advocacy, particularly for young people navigating their own struggles. She's since earned her wellness coaching license, equipping her with the tools to guide and support others on their paths to healing. Her work is driven by a desire to show young people that even in the darkest moments, there's always a way forward. In today's episode, Alex shares her powerful story of recovery, the lessons she's learned along the way, and how she's using her experiences to empower others. Her story is one of resilience, purpose, and the belief that every challenge can be transformed into an opportunity to help others. Let's give a warm welcome to Alex.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
We are excited to have you.
We are so excited to have you, Alex. So, would you please introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are right now and what you are doing.
Yeah, so my name is Alex Trianis. I am originally from Nebraska. I moved to the Kansas City area about 2 years ago, and I got my wellness license around 2022. And just in hopes of inspiring others and leading a path that is inspiring, but also one that people don't have to necessarily follow step by step, but understanding that whatever feels good is what's best for them. So I try to keep that motto in my daily life through my wellness coaching. But I also have my real estate license, and I also just try to help other business owners in anywhere that I can. So, yeah.
That is awesome. So, can you take us back to a pivotal moment when you faced probably the most significant challenge? What was happening in your life at the time? How did that impact you? What effect did that have on you?
Yeah. So I was actually a sophomore in high school when I got in a car accident. My mom was driving me to school and we got rear-ended. And I didn't go to school that day. I didn't really think anything was wrong until I had like the first migraine of my life. And that was the most painful thing. And went to all sorts of doctors and they told me that, oh, you just have a mild concussion. But the symptoms just progressed and progressed. So I actually went to a rehabilitation center, Madonna, and they actually helped me get through my traumatic brain injury and actually understand that I did have a traumatic brain injury. Um, and so, honestly, going through that time was probably the hardest time in my life, but I learned so many lessons while I was so young, and it helped me really make a path and pivot my life into more of the life path that I want to be in and where my authentic self can truly shine. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I know that can be super scary, especially when you don't necessarily know that you've had a traumatic brain injury, which is more frequent than people realize.
Yes.
Um, and so I think it's really amazing that you had that support there to help you to discover what was going on, because I know
Yeah.
that can be a challenge for a lot of people. What do you think was the most difficult aspect of facing that challenge? Was it external circumstances? Was it the internal struggles that went along with it? Was it some sort of combination of both of those things?
Yeah, it's honestly a combination of both. I was always very advanced in school, and I didn't realize how much I attached myself, like my identity, to being so good in school. I was always praised to be good in school. I'm the only child, so my parents, not only did they expect me to get good grades, but it was easy for me to, since it just came naturally. But when I did get in my car accident, it was a little bit of struggle with myself to understand that I'm not only a good student, like I'm a human. I'm not only a person that just goes to school, but I can help others and do other things. And school is not my life. So I had a lot of internal conflict there, but also just dealing with the school was kind of difficult because I wasn't concussed through a sport or anything, so it was kind of hard for them to see that, like, I actually did have a traumatic brain injury, no matter how many people I had, by my side telling them that, "Hey, this is serious." So that was a struggle, and I ended up not going to, high school the end of my sophomore year, so I missed 1 whole semester. Me and my parents just kind of thought it would be better to just take me out of the school scene, and it was just very overwhelming, so it was just better to kind of pull back, and then I still got all of my classes done with the help of Madonna, so that was kind of like a, "Yeah, I did it," because, I still am smart, I still, am learning, but I just learned differently, and that's what I had to learn.
Take us through the emotional toll, if there was one, where you realized that, whoa, like things are different now.
Yeah. So honestly, it was when I tried to go back to school, I just could not see. I've always had the best eyesight. It was very taxing to go into an environment where I'm so comfortable and around my friends and then not be the same person. So it's like when you have a traumatic brain injury, it's a huge identity crisis within yourself. And so you're like fighting your old self with the new self that's injured, but you're also trying to heal. So doing that while I was 15 was definitely difficult, especially when I was trying to explain to people what I felt. They couldn't see my pain, so some of them just really just didn't feel like it was there. So I had to really learn how to communicate with people, and honestly, that made me kind of step back from people and really go through life kind of solo in a way. Like, I had my support system, but I really had to choose who was actually supporting me. Um, and so the emotional battle with that was definitely difficult. And like I said, just learning how to learn differently. Like I said, just self identifying yourself with being so good at something and then realizing that that's not who you are at all is definitely difficult. But like I said, the support system that I did choose to have around me, and especially like my parents, they were so good at understanding that every day might look different. Some days you might be happier, some days you might be sad, some days you might not want to do anything. So just realizing that I didn't have the pressure to do everything like I was before was the biggest, like, okay, you can breathe, you can relax, but going through the process of healing was just learning myself throughout every moment of the day, honestly.
It's very much like you're a different person when that happens. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah, I painted a mural with Sylvia Easel, this summer, and she is an incredible muralist, and we went to Wisconsin and painted together, and both of us have had traumatic brain injuries, and talking about how that affected our emotional stability and how hard
Mhm.
it was to regulate after our brain was hurt.
Yeah.
Did you have issues with your emotions? How did you learn to manage those feelings? What did that aspect look like for you?
Yeah, honestly, it's very odd because I feel like brain injuries obviously are different in everybody. Um, as a young person, I never got angry. I was very like chill and relaxed. And honestly, ever since I got my traumatic brain injury, I have felt the emotion of anger come up and still to this day. So I am still learning how to navigate my emotions to this day. But being around people that told you like it's okay to feel like that was probably the biggest supporter and help because I knew that like I said, I was going to look different every day. I was going to feel different every day. I remember looking in the mirror and just looking at myself. I'm like, I don't even recognize you. Like, you look like a completely different person. And so, relearning how you even look in the mirror and is another process to go through. You know, so it was definitely hard, but there was so many moments that were rewarding. Just because, like I said, I sat back and contemplated my life and like really understood that I'm taking the steps forward in my life for me, not for anybody else. No matter if it's getting an A in math class, no matter if it's helping some like whatever it is, I know that I'm going to choose my purpose and my life path.
That is awesome. For such a young age to be able to navigate through such emotion and, such a traumatic experience is really amazing. So kudos to you.
Thank
That's
you.
just, so it sounds like you had a supportive, like really, really strong support system with your parents. So they were,
Mhm.
a big help, it sounds like. And then it sounds like maybe you lost friendships and you were okay and you knew to step away. Um, would you take us through realizing that maybe those friends maybe weren't a support system and how you were able to decide when to walk away, or if somebody else is facing these challenges, like advice that you could give in those situations?
Yeah. Honestly, it's really just tapping into your true self. I was always the type of person, I'm still an introvert to this day, so making friends, I was always cool with everybody, but getting deeper on a level, I once I did that with the friendship, like you were my sibling, just because I don't have siblings. So I really was I'm still a loyal friend and I truly believe in that. So honestly, once I recognized that some people just weren't understanding that I am going through something difficult and I do have pain even though you might not be able to see it. Um, Once I started noticing that, I started understanding that it's okay that maybe these people don't understand right now because they might go through something and then look back at my situation and be like, wow, I didn't realize, or whatever it was. I just hope that they could learn something from my situation, no matter if they were close to me or not. Um, but it was really at school that I had to kind of just like kind of, you know, take a step back, and not being in school for that semester was kind of easier to do that. So and phone time was very limited because you're not supposed to have a lot of screen time when you're healing. So honestly, I only kept in touch with a few friends, and even though that was difficult, I still was kind of used to it because I grew up an only child. So I kind of like reverted back to that space to make myself happy, and I don't need friends around me. Like, I have my creative side, I have all these things, and I kind of turn towards that. So if I would give advice to anybody that is going through something like that right now, I would say turn to your creative side. I always kind of look back and was like, what did my younger self want me to do? And I started doing those things. So I that was around YouTube days. So I really got into when I did do screen time, I would watch a YouTube video and about makeup or whatever, and then I'd go and do it on myself. So doing the artistic things and having an outlet was so important for me. And so that's when I really dove into makeup, and I love that. Um, so yeah, definitely like doing things that are that pull out your creative side, but also understand that you don't need so many people around you. You just need that love and support, no matter if it comes from internally or, two people or one person that you have as a support system.
I think that's amazing. Araceli and I were actually talking earlier about how our creativity has healed some of our own wounding, whether it was trauma or mental or physical, how that was the way that we've overcome a lot of the challenges in our own lives. And so hearing you say that, it's so powerful. And so many people don't realize that they can change their entire life by just unleashing that creativity that they were born with. And I love how you said going back to your childhood and seeing what was there originally, because that's exactly what I did. I used to make paper dolls, and I would just draw these paper dolls. And when I was living in the shelter after my traumatic brain injury, they invited me to an art therapy class, and it changed my entire life. And so I think that that's really awesome that you recognize that creativity heals.
Yes, I totally agree. I love doing things for myself, and so I started, like I said, just doing makeup, doing my nails, doing things that would, that usually you would go to an external source for, and, you just sit there and you'd relax, but doing it actually really helped me and just get me out of that space of, because being in the space of you're an injured 15-year-old girl, it's very, like, almost degrading because women are already put in a box, young girls are already put in a box, and me, myself, I've kind of put myself in that box because I was told by so many people. So it was almost like, yeah, I just fit in this little box. But until that box was broken, I realized that, like, okay, I don't have to make a new box. I can just repair myself, you know?
That is so beautiful.
Thank
Repair
you.
myself. Um, so take us to the journey of, forgive me, I think it was you express yourself through art, or was that, um
Yes. I have I have made some websites, but also my website as of right now is made by me, and I truly just I love creating digitally. So that's kind of how I created my wellness guides. Honestly, my wellness guides were a creation for myself to go back to, but I realized that, like, hey, maybe people might need this, and I feel like everybody needs self love. So I really kind of broke down my wellness guides into what people need, and I just created them digitally. I would love to publish them one day as a physical book, but doing digital creation is a huge passion of mine. I just really do love it.
That's awesome. That is something that I am attempting to learn a little bit more about. I think it comes a little more naturally to some people than others, but I'm just curious, were there any times during your journey when you felt like giving up, or like maybe this fight wasn't worth it, or you just got overwhelmed with it? Was there any times like that, and how did you fight through that?
Yeah, so in the beginning, when I didn't really know I had a traumatic brain injury, I went to a handful of doctors, mostly male doctors, and they all told me what I should do and how I should heal, and that wasn't working. And so realizing that, I'm like, how are we that's when I really understood the Western world of medicine and understood that they need more research on things like this because, like I said, they heard traumatic brain injury and they put me into a box as like a football player got a concussion. I'm like, that's great that you have that research on that end, but I'm not a football player. I was, so it's like, where's the research for me? So that was really, really frustrating. Um, and there was definitely times where I looked to my parents and I was like, "How is this even happening?" Like, I don't know, like, how am I supposed to heal when no one understands that I'm actually hurt? And so, and then going through, luckily, my parents really didn't show me the legal side as much. But that was a whole other thing related to the car accident that luckily, like I said, I wasn't involved. But when I was involved, that was very traumatic. I still remember times of, like, being questioned by a lawyer, and it's like, I just remember sitting back, I'm like, "Why am I the one being questioned right now?" And so, there were so many times where I was like, "I don't even let's just get my GED. I wanna move, and let's just forget all this happened." But I had to my dad is definitely a proponent to, like, don't run away from your problems, so he definitely was like, "I know like, we don't know what the next step is either, but we're gonna be here for you, and you're gonna get through this, and this is just another stepping stone in your life. This will probably be the hardest thing that you'll go through, but you'll learn so many things from it. So having that mindset of, like, it's it's gonna be okay, even though it's, like, not super positive, really, it's just more of, like, getting through each day. I feel like some people have such a difficulty hearing, like, be positive," because people are like, "How can I be positive when my life's like this?" Well, to that, I say it's literally just putting one foot in front of the other, waking up every morning and realizing that you're blessed with the body that you have. What are you going to do with it that day? What are you going to do with your voice that day? So that's just how I really got through, is how I really was going to make a difference. And like I said, I went through a lot of life changes in that time and learned a lot about myself. And there was definitely moments, like I said, where I wanted to give up, but it was always the people around me that reminded me that everything will be okay.
That's amazing. You said something that in my studies, so I just got a neurolinguistics programming certification recently. And one of the things that I learned is that sometimes when you're in a very negative space in your life, it is impossible to say, oh, this is good. Oh, this is great,
Mhm.
because your mind cannot reconcile the two. And
Right.
coming to a midpoint is the most important thing you can do on that journey, because it's kind of like a ladder. Like if the first rung is way up here, it's going to be really hard to reach that first rung. But if you have
Mhm.
small stepping stones to get there, it makes everything so much easier. And when you said that, I was like, oh, I just learned that lesson. So I think it's amazing. And I mean, that's something that you obviously figured out, because now you're in a more positive space. And so just on the topic of language,
Mhm.
we were talking about being positive. How can you kind of dive into that journey a little bit more about how you overcame those thoughts and the language in your head that was negative, and how you changed that?
Yeah, so honestly, the biggest thing for me was acceptance. I feel like that's just the first step in everything, because people just they don't want to accept where they're at right now, and I understand. I get it. And when I was at that place where I did not want to accept that I was a girl that was told that I might not be able to graduate with my friends. I was told that, well, you're probably not going to be in advanced classes anymore. You might not even see, like, just all these things. And I just realized that, take away those opinions and all the judgment behind it. I am an injured girl right now, and that is what it is. So as soon as I started accepting that, I started realizing that it is going to get better, because every day is like, it's temporary. Pain is temporary. So once I realized that this is just a stage in my life that I have to go through, I just started realizing that, like, it is what it is. And I feel like I healed faster once I got into that mindset, and I understood that being positive and having a good mindset actually is huge for your immune system, and that the way that your body works. I do feel like that is a huge proponent to why I am the way I am today. I realized in that moment that having acceptance of yourself and having that love of for yourself, it will take you anywhere that you want in life.
You're just so young and you just are able to, I don't know. I just love hearing you talk about how you've overcome all of the obstacles. What did moving forward, did you go to college? What did that look like? How did you figure out what you wanted to do and pursue for your career?
Yeah, so growing up, my dad ran his own business, and then my mom kind of climbed her way up the corporate ladder. So my dad had no college background, my mom had a master's. So I saw both realms of life, and I did not want to do either of those. I knew that I wanted to own my own business, but I give all my love to my parents that have supported me through this journey, just because I was definitely all over the place. I still am all over the place with what I wanna be and who I wanna be, and honestly, I've just accepted that I'm just ever changing. But I realized that I did not want to go to college, even though I kind of had some colleges picked out. I definitely wanted to go to a warm state. So, like, I was looking at Las Vegas, Arizona, but then my accident happened and I realized, like, I do not want to go to school right after I just did all this. So I took a gap year and I worked in the car industry because I love cars. And I got a taste of what making money for yourself was. And I was like, oh, I like this. But obviously, I don't want to be in this profession, in this industry for a long time. So that's when I got my real estate license. It was during COVID. And then I was like, well, I don't know if I really want to do real estate like as an agent like that. I would love to flip houses in the future. So that's when I really started diving into my wellness journey. And that was about 3 or 4 years after I graduated. Um, and that was so the timeline. So I took a gap year and then I worked and worked and worked. And then COVID happened, got my real estate license, and then I got my wellness coaching license. And neuro linguistic programming is kind of in my wellness license. And I would love to get my certification in that as well, too. Um, but yeah, I honestly just told myself that it's okay to go with the flow and it's okay to be ever changing. And luckily, I have had the physical and financial support to be able to keep doing what I love. And that's just by helping people. And I pick up jobs here and there just to kind of get out the house. I'm a person that just loves to be spontaneous. So even though I own my own business, you won't see me in the house running my own business every single day. I like doing things and going out and just trying new things. So like I said, my parents, thank them for that. But yeah, I never went to college. So I took a couple classes, but just realized that it wasn't for me.
I am a firm believer in educating yourself on what you want to do. So I think that college is not necessarily for everyone. I do have my bachelor's degree in social work and business, but I just think that everyone has a different journey. And I think it's awesome that you are doing what you love. Now, I'm just curious, were there any smaller early victories or breakthroughs that kind of gave you a glimpse of hope or direction?
Yeah, so honestly, it sounds like so crazy to think about, but the physical side of having a traumatic brain injury, your body is exhausted. And so realizing that you're not going to go out and do things, you're not going to have normal days like you did, and then getting to the point where it was like, oh, I went out. Okay, cool. I made it. I made it back home and I'm fine, like without a migraine. So like there's little things that I really celebrated, but I also understood that healing isn't linear. I totally understood that in that moment because I would be 1 week amazing and then the next week I'd be in my couch just like relaxing because your body is so it's just trying to get used to the normalcy again. So getting back to normal was kind of my goal in a way. And once I got back to the little things that I used to do, I was celebrating that. And like I said, the support system of my parents and them not knowing how to navigate this, but understanding that, they have to be there for me, it just helped. It really did help a lot.
Could you share an example of a recent project or initiative that you're especially proud of and what kind of impact it has?
Yeah. So honestly, my biggest thing is reaching out to business owners and just helping them in each way that I can. So I'm really trying to work on that. But my wellness guides are my best creation. I really have a lot of pride and joy in those just because I love creating digitally, but I also do feel like the messages in there are they just need to be heard and need to be seen by people.
You can also share where people can find these.
Yeah, so it's on my website, alexandriatrianis.com, and that's all my socials. So my website is linked to all of my socials, so you can find my website there. And I also have a blog. So I have a weekly newsletter. That is one of my creations that I love as well. And I'm still trying to figure that out. I feel like some people want to look up to people, and I have to realize that it's okay to not have it all figured out, and it's okay to share that side of you that doesn't have it all figured out all the time. So I'm still battling with that and, like, struggling with that sometimes. Um, but I'm definitely trying to make an impact in the youth world. My boyfriend is a social worker, and he does amazing work for, foster children and just children in need in the state, and I would love to get a part of that in 2025. That's definitely my goal, is to volunteer and try to do some more public speaking, engagements. But yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think it's incredible that you're just so passionate about reaching out and about giving back. And that's awesome. And I think the wellness guides, I'm pretty excited to check those out myself. Um,
Thank you.
yeah. If you could give our listeners one piece of advice in finding their purpose and turning challenges into something positive in their world, what piece of advice would that be?
I would say that never stop discovering yourself. I feel like we have a lot of beliefs that are programmed into us since we were young. I feel like if you kind of look at that book of beliefs in your subconscious and realize what beliefs are serving you and what beliefs aren't serving you, and meaning that what make you happy and what don't make you happy, and just kind of weed them out. I really do feel like weeding out the negative and feeding yourself the positive really does come into play when you are trying to discover yourself again. And discovering yourself again is every single day. I reinvent myself every single day. And I always love to give the advice that you are you're not a stagnant human being. You are fluid. Let's go through life. Every day might look different to you, but just start living. There's always little glimpses and miracles that you can find in everyday life. That might be looking at your favorite color, going for a walk in nature, like something so small, but that really makes a difference. So have to say, rediscover yourself every single day and never be afraid to reinvent yourself.
Ah, I love that. So, looking back, is there anything you wish you had known earlier in your journey that might help someone else on a similar path? Because I feel like you are so good at just being in tune with yourself and figuring things out, I think, quicker than what other people might be able to.
So thank you so much. I appreciate that. To kind of go into my intuition, I've always been a spiritual person. I've always believed a little bit deeper, and I've always looked into things a little bit more. And like I said, thank you to my parents because I'm always asking questions. So definitely my intuition was built up during that time for sure while I was healing. But I wish someone would have told me that, you know, forget societal standards. Even though I knew that I lived for myself and like I was going to, live this path and live this life, I still dealt with the societal standards. I grew up in a time where social media just became, I was 13 when social media was came out with Snapchat, Instagram. Like Facebook was always there, but Instagram and Snapchat were the big platforms. And I felt like if I would have just kept going with being free spirited on social media and not really retracted and felt so like, oh, what would people think of me of this, or what would that, if I could just tell myself like, just do it. It's okay. You are not going to be judged. In fact, that you might be more loved by sharing your story. So I'm still working on that to this day. But I thought this would be a great platform to help me kind of get into that mode of sharing my story and understanding that it's positive.
Oh, I love that so much. And I love that this is your first podcast. I think one of the things that we want to highlight here is growth. And the entire podcast is built around the idea that no matter what negative situation you've gone through, you can come out in the black or in the positive. And
Yep.
so I love that this is a stepping stone for you, and I cannot wait to see where you go with it. And on that note, we always have a few closing questions. And the first one is, what does being in the black or being in the positive mean to you personally?
Being in a positive mindset personally just means that I'm feeling good and I'm accepting my life as it is and living in the present. I'm a huge dreamer, so manifesting has always been a huge thing for me, but I've learned to my boyfriend has actually taught me this a lot. It's okay to just relax and understand that your dreams are gonna come to you when they will come to you. They're meant to be here. They're meant to be for you. So just being present and understanding that things will come as they will. Just let life be, you know?
You're just so beautiful.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So I think we've already touched on these, but how do you envision your work and impact growing in the future?
Yeah, so I would love to get in a setting where I'm one-on-one with clients. I did do that virtually for a little bit, but now I'm kind of referring clients to my wellness guides when I do get those inquiries. But I would love to be one-on-one with clients, sitting down in my own little space in the future. But honestly, I have so many goals for myself that um, I'm not really. I don't really stick to one. I'm not really a 5-year plan type of person. I'm more of a what do you want to do to make you feel better about yourself and make people learn more. So, like I said, public speaking is in the works. Writing a book, I would love to publish my books along with my wellness guides. I would love to publish like a book about myself and my life. Um, but yeah, just exciting things.
So awesome. And I know you already went over this a little bit, but where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, so I am actually on all social medias except Twitter, Alexandria Trianis or Alex Trianis. And I'm also on an app called We Are Eight, and it's kind of like TikTok, but it's way more on the positive side. And I love being on that app. So I would definitely recommend people to go on that app. It's also woman founded too. So
Love that. Well, Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been so inspirational. And to all of our listeners, we appreciate you joining us as well. I hope that Alex's story left you feeling inspired and reminded you of the incredible strength that does lie within each of us. She has obviously taken her toughest challenges and transformed them into something so beautiful, showing us that even in the darkest moments, there's a way to bring light to the world.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe and share In the Black with another woman who could use a little encouragement. Together, we're building a community of passion, purpose, and power. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and remember your story matters. Your choices change things, and being your most authentic self can and will change the world around you.
Yeah, I love hearing other people's journey with, especially like having a brain injury as well. Like, I didn't realize how common that was.
I
Uh,
know.
and since I've started to be more open about mine, it's been amazing hearing how many people have actually just gone through the same thing with the doctors. Like, this is happening, and they're like, "Oh, you'll be fine. Oh, you'll be fine. It's just a little
Yeah.
concussion." And especially women. But there is a statistic that says it's 7 years from the time a woman diagnoses that she has a problem before the doctors give her an official diagnosis. And so
It adds up.
with
Yeah.
men, it is typically 2 to 3 years, but with women, it's 7 on average. So,
I I guess I should have asked during the podcast, like, what makes it a traumatic brain injury compared to a concussion? So what are the differences there?
technically, a concussion is a traumatic brain injury, but it is considered a mild traumatic brain injury, whereas they label a traumatic brain injury once it's reached moderate level, which means that it's actually impacted your brain long term.
Yep.
But both are brain injuries.
Yeah. I
So
noticed
there was
that I noticed that with concussions, I don't know, because I feel like we see it a lot in sports, like, that's just our main thing that we see it in, and the remnants of a traumatic brain injury is very long lasting. I'm not saying concussions aren't, but you you know, you can kind of attest to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it took me a long
So
time.
Yeah.
so I had a 10-pound weight fall on my head, and apparently I was concussed, and I didn't know how to, like, park in an empty parking lot. So I worked at the hospital, I had to drive myself to the parking lot, and, I just remember I, like, was walking like a drunkard, and it was just, like, super weird, but I didn't think I was concussed, and so I saw my doctor, one of my clients was a doctor, and she's like, "You cannot go back to work, you are
Yeah.
like, you have a concussion," and so I was like, I don't think I do. I think I'm fine. So another doctor was like, "You won't know that you have a concussion until the concussion is gone." And so like 2, 3 weeks later, I got to realize that because all of a sudden, like, the fog was lifted. I was like, "Oh, I was concussed." But ever since then, my memory has been terrible. Like, I have the worst memory for many things. Like, I have to, like, repetitively, like, say it to myself or, like, write it down because I cannot keep track of things. So I don't know what I had, but I was like, "What's the difference?"
Yeah, that
How do
definitely
you
sounds
know?
like a traumatic brain injury right there, like, "Oh my."
If you have long-term effects like that, typically it would be classified as a traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
Huh.
And depending on where you are hit in the head, sometimes I would love to have more research on that because I was hit in the back of the head and I would like to kind of know more about what affected me and maybe I can kind of pinpoint some symptoms as to what maybe is developing in the back of the head and the brain, you know, because our brain and our mind is our working system. If we don't have our brain, then we don't have anything, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, and mine was here.
Okay.
Mine was at the top.
Yeah, so all 3 of us
So,
have
yeah.
Yeah. I would love to have you on again and have Sylvia on as well. She, like I said, is a mural
Yeah.
artist, and, I think it would be fascinating to have us all because she got hit head on by a semi truck, so
Oh
hers
my
was
god.
straight front.
Right.
Um, and so it would be interesting to see, like, how that
Well,
is.
let's
Yeah.
write it down because I feel like, Shannon, you say, "Let's have you on again and talk about
Yes.
this." And I don't think we're keeping track of that. So let's make this happen. I'm going to write this down. Is that okay with you,
I would
Alexandra?
love that. I would absolutely.
Well, thanks again for having you on. I know we've kept you a little bit longer than normal, but you
No
are
worries.
fascinating, and I'm so excited to share this with the world.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having the platform for me to do this. So I appreciate it.